You have stepped into a mystical place, the Last Video Store, a video store that has every single film on its shelves, and I am its most humble clerk, Alexei, and it is my honor to be hosting this show and bringing you into this world. Our guest this week is filmmaker Goran Stolevski, a wonderful filmmaker. And I say wonderful a lot on this show because we're treated to some truly wonderful people that earn that title. But I'd say this, he is one of my favorite filmmakers working in film, especially Australian cinema right now. His debut film was You Won't Be Alone, which is a kind of folklore, horror-ish take on witchcraft in Eastern Europe, in the Balkans. A great film starring Noomi Rapace. His follow-up film, Of an Age, opened the Melbourne International Film Festival. And I'd say this, far out, dude. It might be the very best Australian film in the last 10 plus years. It is this really tender queer love story. It's a road movie. It boasts some of the most immersive, powerful performances. And his new film, which comes out on May 9th in Australian cinemas, is called Housekeeping for Beginners. And I'll say this, and I say it to him, 3 for 3, man. 3 fantastic movies. I absolutely love them. Before we get into our chat and into Goran's rental combo, let me tell you a little bit about Housekeeping for Beginners. It is a film set in Macedonia, which is where Goran comes from. And it is a very rare film because it is about the Roma people, the Romani people, and the way that they are perceived, the way that they are perceived by the rest of the world. And what is in there is this really interesting story about this family dynamic, this queer household that come together to form a new family. And it is brash, it's bustling, it's really vibrant, it's really, really strong. And it's this kind of clash of cultures and clashes of languages that what excites me most about it is that it grows in its warmth and it grows in its humor as the film progresses, which is a really unique identity for a film. I can't recommend it highly enough. I was lucky enough to see it on its Sydney premiere at the Mardi Gras Film Festival, where it closed out the whole festival. And it's a great statement. And Goran has such a huge future ahead of him. But in the present, I'll say this. He's one of the most ferocious, fearless, seeking out, hunting cinephiles that I've ever encountered. He eclipses my cinephilia by so much. So the pressure is on me today rather than on him. When it comes to that rental combo, I have been stressing about it for ages, trying to think of a movie that I could even possibly recommend him that he has not seen, let alone heard of. It's high stress situation. It's a high stress situation for me to find a movie that he could like that he has not already seen. So the pressure's on to me. He's going to pick a new release film. He's going to pick 2 classics. Those are weeklies, baby. And I'm going to give him that recommendation. And if he has already seen it, God, the consequences are dire for me. Absolutely dire. But I'm going to do my best. After all, it is my duty. It is my honor. It is the code that I have sworn. Now let's get into it. Here is my chat with filmmaker of Housekeeping for Beginners, Goran Stolevski. Welcome to the video store.
Thank you. Yeah. Finally back home.
Well, you know, it's an honor to have you in here. I think you're one of the great cinephiles of this land. So it's our blessing to have you within our halls.
Thank you. Finally, someone understands me.
But that makes the pressures on me today. The pressure's on me right now. I'm sweating. I got to prove my worth to you.
Oh, I like that I'm already making you sweat. It usually takes me a bit longer. But yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm an easy sweater. It's nothing on you this time.
I hope you open conversations with that. Excellent.
I got no choice. I have to. I'm going to go, by the way, guys, I'm about to perspire. So if you see me leaking,
warning, like, yeah.
Well, we're going to get to your picks in a moment, but I'm going to sign you up to the video store. I'm going to get you that card ready. I'm going to laminate it for you.
Oh, I miss these days.
I
Like,
wanted to
I'm not
send
going to leave. That's the problem. Like, I'm actually going to stay here.
We'll swap sides of the desk. You can take my job. But Goran, I'm going to need to see a piece of identification from you. I've got a beautiful monitor set up.
Oh my god. So I only am just noticing this now. Like, that's also very transporting.
We're doing time travel in every way for you.
Yeah.
We can take you back to the video store in your memories in any way that you want.
Yeah, well, I have several. Depends on which, like one for each day of the week. It was at the time. So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to get a piece of identification off you to verify who you are. And here I'm seeing we've got a queer lion from Venice Film Festival Housekeeping for Beginners. Can I ask you, what is the queer lion? Is it the character from Wizard of Oz?
It's actually my pronouns. No, it was... yeah, it was pretty cool. So we're in Venice Film Festival. Like all the films in the various competition sections that have, a queer element are up for this prize. And like there's a queer palm at Cannes and I forget the Teddy Bear Award at Berlin. So in Venice, I was the gayest lion of them all.
Well, what an honor. What an honor.
If that was the only award I've ever wanted in my life. Actually, I'm not an award-driven person, but I'm like, as a queer lion, tell me the award is pink. It's not only pink, it's sparkly and pink.
Sparkly and pink.
Yes.
Wow, does it
It
sweat?
matches nothing in my house, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to redesign the whole room around it. It's fine.
That's the focal point now.
Yeah.
Where does it sit in your house?
It's next to my computer, actually. So next to where I do my writing. Look, there's not much. I live in a shitty studio the size of a shoebox.
Yeah.
Like, it's 55 square meters. It is tiny. There's not many spaces.
So it is where it is, and it takes up almost the entire space,
Yes,
it sounds
yeah,
like.
it does.
But I was lucky enough to see your new film, Housekeeping for Beginners, yesterday. And I'm going to tell you this, brother, you're 3 for 3 with me. I love all 3 of your films. But I'd love to focus on this one because I think it's so rare that we see stories about Roma people or Romani people on screen. And I'm about to ask you the most basic bitch question I can. What was the genesis of this film?
I also identify as a basic bitch, so thank you. The genesis was... actually, no, it was a photo I saw posted. A friend of mine posted, who's a veteran filmmaker himself, Mr. Tony Ayers.
Home Song Stories.
And Walking on Water. Home Song Stories is actually probably my favorite film of his. And he posted a photo online of when he first moved to Melbourne in the 1970s. And he moved into a house with his boyfriend and 8 queer women. And it was just a still from, just a random day in their life in that house. And I was like, what a cool space. Like that sense of, like a cocoon you have to yourselves to just kind of, live your life, in a time and place where that was maybe a bit more complicated. But I wanted that kind of space, and I updated it to the present day. And, this kind of story doesn't quite make sense in an Aussie context. But also... even putting that aside, I shifted it to Macedonia. Partly, I'm from there, so I know it. But partly, like, that country is very similar to, 50 other countries. All of Eastern Europe and Southern Europe and probably big chunks, definitely big chunks of the Middle East.
Yeah.
Parallel, cultures and socioeconomies. And, most queers don't really get to choose where they land. A lot of the queer people in the world weren't born into a developed economy. And I'm really... those stories we don't get to see for obvious reasons. It's no one's fault, but it's still, we miss out. And I think, like, if you don't document these in real time, it's like they disappear. It's like, they never existed.
Yeah.
So, I'm verbalizing it now in retrospect, but, like, a lot of the time with ideas, it's a feeling, and then, kind of things start swarming at you. It becomes like a story world based on a bunch of personalities, and it's like a 10-second, process, and then you're trying to unpack it psychologically, like what led to that thought, and it's all talking about it in a literal linear term. It's very it doesn't quite capture it actually, but
That's so interesting though, because especially with each of your films, they are so distinct. Like you have 3 really unique films. And I think what feels maybe most unique about this one is the way that the story like grows and develops. It almost gets warmer as it continues on, and it gets more overtly comedic. It gets funnier as it goes along as well. What was the journey that you really want to take your audience on with this film?
To be honest, I don't really set out with like an emotional map. I sort of I sat with the idea for a while until enough scenes and details accumulated before I sat down and wrote it. Like as in for years, it was just in the back of my head. I didn't really sit down to write it, and then it's just this web of relationships, and I wanted it to sort of encompass every feeling. I didn't want it to be just sad or just funny. I definitely wanted to prioritize the comedy because it's a pretty dark premise, but I think no one's life is a social realist drama every day. Even in the direst of circumstances, even in the middle of wartime, you still just to survive. You're trying to like live in a way that there is some joy or like moments of emotional like solace or succor. And I think, and I wanted to kind of seek out those moments, partly because they're true to life, but partly because I've seen the rest. I've seen gay misery, God knows, over and over. It's not very interesting. Not sure how much it was ever, but it definitely isn't anymore in and of itself as a goal. Or just in general, European misery porn. It's like its own genre, I feel.
Absolutely is.
Right?
It's a broad genre. There's lots of different types of European misery.
But there's a certain kind that is like the exploitative.
Yes.
I'm like, I can tell you went to private school, and yet you're like really going to talk to me about the misery of poor people. Thank you. Really want to learn about that.
That poverty porn.
Yeah. It's up there with superhero movies in terms of my favorite genres. I find them equally intellectually and emotionally stimulating, actually. So I definitely didn't want to go in that direction.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, you steered quite clear of it with this one. I want to talk about that web of relationships you're talking about. Let's get stuck in that web because when I think about like the evolution of your films, it's almost like of an age, it's an ensemble of 3 characters with like 3 really powerful, strong performances with like really clear to the audience perspectives. This one, you feel like it's almost like a level up where you have this entire big ensemble of lively cast characters. Can you talk about working in that ensemble and calibrating it and the challenges of it?
Yeah, for sure. To be honest, actually, with each of the first 2 films, like I think the way the story and visual style is constructed, you kind of feel there's obviously the main characters that are in focus. So it doesn't quite feel like an ensemble effort. But if you go back to You Won't Be Alone, those scenes are very densely populated. There's 12 people, and usually they're not extras, they're actors, most of them, And when you're on set, everyone's a human being. It's not like this is the person that's my focus and the rest figure their shit out. You know, I'm used to directing ensembles from moment one, of day one of You Won't Be Alone. And to me, even the actor who has 2 lines in the background genuinely shapes the performance of the main character. A lot of the time, the direction I give on set is about making sure the protagonist is focusing not on themselves, but on the people around them and engaging with them. In terms of on a day-to-day level, it was no different because I always was working with like scenes with 10 people. The wedding preparation scene in Of an Age has like 10 people, running around with dialogue, and it's all there. It's just the emotional focus is with the guys. Yeah. And with Hattie, of course. I mean, Ebony, the character.
Yeah.
So
focusing on those 3.
Like emotionally, that's what you experience. But I think the problem then is like that a lot of people miss out on how much heavy lifting is done by the character actors, because without them, that reality doesn't feel real. One of my favorite characters in Of an Age was the bridesmaid, who's like, I mean, that's actually my friend. She improvised at one point, after the dance scenes. She's just like, gays are just the best dancers. Like, I've seen documentaries. It's just amazing what you guys like. And I couldn't, and I wish I could have had the close up, but like, for where the way the story was flowing, I couldn't quite make it there, but it's there. But like, if without those moments, that film isn't like quite as funny. And like, I still love having people ask me about like, so how did you go with the dialogue at the wedding? It felt so real. I'm like, you should meet Julia Harari. I was lucky enough to meet her at a young age, and I know if you just let her loose, you get gold. And then it was similar in this, like on a day-to-day level, like I mean, there's differences in terms of making sure you get camera angle coverage, and I'm not gonna bore you shitless about that, but the dynamic, like, it needs to work in real time on the day, and for that you need to be paying attention to everyone and be nurturing of them all. So
Oh wow! Well, and also this cast, it's multilingual. Was that a challenge, like through trying to like get everyone on the same page, or?
I don't know. It didn't feel like it on the day. Like definitely in the lead up, it was. I mean, our two lead actresses, like I've said in the past, had to learn all of the dialogue phonetically. It's not their native language, and then, we had also other languages on screen that some of us didn't speak. But no, it was actually really a gently flowing, well, not gently, chaotically somehow flowing. It was a warm feeling.
It was flowing. However, be chaotic
it was
or
never,
gentle.
like we had a great time every day. Like, and that's really rare on set. So it was, but it was constant. It was intense and it was constant chaos in some ways. But like we were getting a lot of, everything on, was coming together. And there was, new bits of improv and little scenes, and like we finished early in the end because of that. But I think everyone kind of like what was great. I think in retrospect, I realized that everyone, both cast and crew, weren't operating based on I've been given a task and I'm going to do this and that's the end of the task. Like, I think we all pictured what the film is at the end, and also what the reality is in terms of the world of these characters. And you're operating within it, and even if there's little bits that are a bit challenging, because like, what did they just say? They're improvising a language none of us speak. You trust that they're doing their job. You can kind of have a sense, and also I don't know what they're saying, and they're speaking to each other, and like in real life, this character wouldn't know what they're saying. So you embrace that reality. I would say chaotically yet smoothly is how it all worked. And I genuinely miss it. Like, I want to go back to that set.
Wow.
We all do.
So I guess it's all about trying to find the authenticity of it all. It's like where you go for it.
It's instinctively, I think you're chasing it. It's really easy to find it if you're just open to it.
Wow. That's a beautiful lesson, everyone. It's easy to find it.
Yeah.
Take that with you.
There.
Well, Goran, the film comes out on May 9th in Australia.
Correct.
So
Yes.
hopefully very soon when this is coming out into the world as well.
Wonderful.
And I do think everyone should go see it. Housekeeping for Beginners.
I think
Beautiful
everyone
film.
should go see it as well.
I think
I agree with you.
It should be the law. I think everyone has to go see
Yes,
it.
yes.
And if not, they'll have to freaking deal with me, dudes.
I mean, I'm petrified for them because of that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm one of the toughest blokes around, so watch out,
I mean,
guys.
oh my God.
Well, we've signed you up to the store. I'm going to send you
Excellent.
out to go pick up your little rental combo. And the new members combo is, of course, 1 new release, 2 weeklies, and then it will be my duty, my honor, and my greatest fear to provide you with a customized, bespoke staff pick recommendation based on everything I know about you. I'm using
Yeah.
empathy today.
Excellent. Oh, wow. A strength, I hear. Yeah.
One of my great strengths is I
Yes.
can see people and I can feel them and I can understand who they are.
And all of this for $11.99.
$11.99, yes. And I
Amazing.
pay you the $11.99. That's how this store works.
Finally, income.
And it's film-related income, so you do have to declare it.
Yeah. No, good. Excellent.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll send you out. Go pick up those picks and come on back.
Right.
New release.
All right, your new release film, Goran. I'm going to tell you this. I'm excited to talk about this movie because this was almost a pick that I almost gave as a recommendation for a previous guest, my dear friend Nina Oyama.
Oh my God, Nina.
Yeah, she was there last night as well.
I
at your
know. I
screening.
mean, we know each other, so
Yeah.
yeah, we had a chat quickly.
And
yeah.
so, we can pass it on to her afterwards. Maybe you can watch it with her when you take it back
I
home
might see
with
her
you.
tonight. I might tell her to watch it then.
Tell her. Absolutely tell her.
Okay.
The movie is Return to Seoul.
Drama.
Can you tell me about Return to Seoul?
Well, I think it's a French production primarily, but all of it takes place in Korea, and the lead character and actress, a French-Korean woman who grew up in France, and I'll speak about the character, but like she was adopted and kind of grew up very disconnected from Korean culture, or essentially, or from the country itself, and almost on a whim ends up in Seoul. And almost on a whim decides she's going to try and track down her birth parents through it's not even like a convoluted bureaucracy, but there's natural obstacles that are in place to protect everyone's emotional well-being.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a really exciting thing about the movie is like there are bureaucratic obstacles but they feel like they do translate to emotional obstacles as a viewer.
Absolutely. And no one's demonized along the way. It's a very human film. And also, I really love, like, in case it's not clear from my work, I really love characters who are abrasive, who are not trying to be likable. Because I find, I relate to them. And also,
you're likable, let it be known. Let the record show.
It's all a lie. It'll break down in 20 minutes. No, but I think those people are more interesting to watch, and they tell me more about humanity. I think the idealized wish fulfillment lie of a likable protagonist is just not my kind of jam. And I'm pretty sure this was the actress's first performance.
Right? And the actor's name is Park Ji-min.
Yeah.
First performance, and just stunning performance.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and very fearless, very, committed, mind and body and soul to this story.
My favorite term to use, it's a raw performance.
Well, I mean, it is. It's not a lie to say.
I know, but I love to say it.
Yeah.
And I think what really works with this film is that it's so beautifully in line with the perspective of its protagonist, where you just you really do inhabit them. You really do see the world from them, and just allows every emotional beat, every moment of like the emotional turmoil that she's in, like that existentiality of dealing with who are you and where are you from. You feel those so deep in this film.
And it's interesting that, like, there's probably 5 different times within it that it could have ended and it would have been a great film. But it's the thing is, like, and usually when that happens, I'm like, okay, you should have just picked one, But, like, we don't have to go Lord of the Rings in every film. But, like, in this case, I thought the film was about to end, and then it went to a different sequence, and then it just deepened even more. And then again, I thought, like, oh, this must be close to the ending, and then something else happened. And, it's never that, like, my attention was lagging at all. I just felt, like, so emotionally kind of full. And then it would build and deepen and build and deepen over and over again. I felt like I'd kind of got all what you could get out of watching a great novel, when I was watching this movie. I mean, reading a great novel. It's a book I watched recently. And
a lot of people listen to books, but you're the first to watch them. It's very exciting.
Powers. Yeah, so I just love that it had that depth while being, it's not, I mean, there's lots of dialogue, but it's not just like a talky film. It's not just an intellectual exercise. It all feels very felt. And cinematic, like the craft is, superb all through, and very organic. And I'm just so grateful for any movie that can hold my attention, frankly. And because I'm just jaded, man. Yeah. It's been like, I've kept track of how many films I've watched since like 7,000, I think, by now. So
wow, okay.
Yeah. Like, even good films right now, I'm just like, there's nothing you're doing wrong, but can you speed it up? I'm tired.
I think that's the cinephile's curse. There's always going to be peaks and valleys where you're like, sometimes you go, I love everything. And then there's moments where you go, the only movie I like is Beverly Hills Cop, and I just need to keep watching that over and over again. It's the only thing that does something for me.
You're right. Mine are really weird, but like actually Return to Seoul I probably could watch over and over again because it's, even though it's not the kind of film you'd associate with it. But yeah, no, I was just, I felt like I was living someone's life and it, someone who's very different from me in so many ways, but like it kind of felt connected to my own life as well.
It's like that, the connection you get from specific, like something being specific.
Completely.
It's that's how you find like the universalities, like through specific.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's almost like a cliche to say, and you wonder if people just put it in publicity materials just to say something, but genuinely,
it's
works.
true.
You see it demonstrated over
It's
and
true.
over
And I didn't know it was a cliche. I thought I was the first person ever to say that
I'm
out
sorry,
loud.
you were.
So now,
you can edit that out. Who's editing? Yeah, like
we're gonna put a little note that says first time these words were ever said in human history.
You can maybe just like do the whole like sense bleep me out and go, he was just swearing his fucking ass off. Yeah.
And
if anyone's seen my films, they would not be surprised if I started swearing my ass off blithely.
It was a Blue episode. He was swearing. He was screamed at me the whole time. The film is Return to Seoul, David Chu. The other thing I'd say about it is I absolutely love like nocturnal films. I think this film captures that Korean Seoul nightlife with like such vibrancy, where you do feel that energy, like the way that almost social interaction changes as it gets darker and more into night. Yeah. I think that's something that's really evocative about this, and also those temporal shifts when you start seeing different you see these people catch up in their lives further on in their life.
You can
Not
imagine
unlike
I'd be like
of
emotionally.
an age, of course, similar to that.
Like,
Yeah.
yes, this is the kind of story I love.
Yeah, but the director is Davey Chu. I cannot wait to see what they do next. And
Absolutely.
Return to Seoul, great movie.
Yeah.
And I'll say you return to my soul right now. What a wonderful pick from you.
Well, it's what I'm here for.
Before we get into your weekly picks, I actually want to ask you, and I think it is my duty to do so. I have to ask you. Have you ever been a member of another video store or any other video memories?
Oh my god! I think there was probably like 14 video
14
stores that had a
video
membership.
stores. Wow.
Well, I was a hardcore film nerd, so initially, like, I wasn't, my family couldn't afford to be a member of a video store, so I just used public libraries up until the point where, like, I just used them all up. I then discovered, I think what is now the Acme collection in Melbourne used to be called Cinemedia. And I found out that if you paid a $55 membership annually, you could have like endless, you could have 4 films a week, and it had everything, like every Bergman movie, every Fellini movie, and that was my annual birthday present for 2 years from my parents. Even though my birthday was in July, I only got one expensive thing a year, and that was that.
Yeah.
And it was worth it. Especially because I remember at one point they mixed up the fact that I was ordering too many videos. So I was getting 8 a week and no one knew. And I was like, yeah, keep them coming. It's fine. So that was the first one. But then, progressively, there were some films I could find in various video stores. And
before you moved to Australia, did you go to video stores?
No, I don't think they existed, to be honest, in my town. Or if there were, they just were very short-lived things with just mainly pirated porn onto VHS.
We do have a section of pirated porn as well, but it's in the basement. It's a
That's
trap door.
one
to
of
get
my
down
weekly
there.
picks, actually. And I used to work in a video store. So Video Easy Rosanna, this is Goran, was something I used to say on the phone a lot for 2 years.
Wow, you wore the uniform. You're a man in uniform like myself.
Oh my god, a shitty blue shirt.
Yeah.
And then there's the loop tape playing, like it's an hour-long program with trailers and random video clips of bad pop, and you just listen to it 6 times a day, 5 days a week, and you just want to stab either yourself or all of humanity by the end of it. But but I got to work in a video store, so it was worth it.
If you want, I can give you the loop tape as one of your extra picks. You can take the loop tape from here.
No, I've experienced it enough. Trust me, it lives on in my blood. There's no need to revisit that one.
Oh man, loop tape! I've not thought about loop tapes in so long.
I remember me. I still have nightmares.
Absolutely, I always used to just be like, when I had those moments by myself where there was no one else in the store, to just take the loop tape away and start putting in something else, just to like escape it all.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much of a choice I had to do that, but like I do remember, like, why was Rock Lobster playing for 2 months at the Video Easy loop tape in 2006? Can that, like, there are mysteries in life. I feel like there's a premise in that somewhere.
Yeah, there's an investigation.
Rock Lobster needs to be promoted more in 2006. In suburban video stores in Melbourne.
Well, it works for me. It's one of my favorite songs, and now I have the answer
why.
as to why it was.
It was, kismet, obviously. It was meant to be. I need to never hear that song again, but that's not the song's fault.
Weekly.
We're going to move on to your weekly picks. And you got a lovely little stack here. 2 favorites of mine. And also 2 like wonderful queer auteurs. George Cukor's film.
Oh, shit, right.
The Philadelphia Story.
Pushing the gay agenda.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
We're going to have to announce this episode. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Then we've got George Cukor's classic comedy, screwball romantic, The Philadelphia Story.
Comedy.
Yes.
And the beautiful Criterion Collection edition here.
This is so cool. I think I have... Oh, no, I've got it on DVD, but I don't think it's the Criterion, so...
Well, you can't have that one.
Need to move on.
You can only borrow it. You can only loan it.
It's fine. I'll test it. I'll test run it here, and then I'll order it.
What made you pick this film?
This is a film I could watch over and over again, and have, actually, although not a lot recently, actually, now that I think of it. But, I feel like... that's one of the peaks in all art of all time ever. Like Hollywood screwball comedy in the 30s and 40s is as high level. I know it's popular art, but it's as high level art as Da Vinci, as far as I'm concerned. And I adore Da Vinci. That's not a knock.
Yeah, the Da Vinci Code you're
I'm not gonna
speaking
come
about.
here and knock Leonardo da Vinci. Like,
Yeah.
no, I think like the level of writing that happened and the level of acting, I think it's really ironic that like when I watch the Philadelphia Story, I believe all of those people have actually had sex in real life. When I watch, you know,
In
any
different combinations that
Catherine
aren't even in
Heigl
the
or whatever
movie.
movie, I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not sure anyone has.
Yeah.
You know? It's really weird because it's a very conservative time. I remember there used to be a rule that people weren't allowed to be seen kissing on screen for longer than 3 seconds.
And that's the Hays part of the Hays Code?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, obviously they had to be fully clothed and all this, but I'm just like, but they're so like, you know, I feel like these people have lived lives and had relationships and like there's sex that's been had and they're adults about it, you know? Whereas now I feel like we're so coy about this shit in a very juvenile way. And yeah, like all like, you know, I didn't have friends in high school. Katharine Hepburn was my best friend.
Wow.
And I'm not saying that to complain. I'm saying that to show off. And Cary Grant made me gay, but that was through bringing a baby, not through this one. Although he may have compounded it.
Of course.
You know.
It takes two, I say.
Yes.
It takes two versions of the same guy.
I've seen many versions of him by that point. So yeah, no, I love this film. And speaking of, you know, ensemble, it's just like every single person on screen. There's Ruth Hussey is one of the supporting characters,
Absolutely.
and like, you know, children on screen are so often annoying, but Virginia Weidler in this is not. Like, it's every single person in relationship is thought through and developed, and there's just not an ounce of fat in that movie.
And those three primary leads of Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, there is like that really palpable, fun chemistry tension that makes every moment of dialogue just sing so harmoniously between
And
them.
I remember someone in a review pointing out how, like, ages ago, it stuck with me. Like, it's rare that you watch a romantic comedy and you genuinely don't know which guy the lead is going to end up with, or even who you're rooting for in the end. That is remarkable. Like,
and you
it's
love to see it
genuinely
play out in
remarkable.
this one. Like,
You
really
actually
do.
don't know how it's going to end because it's plausible that it could go either direction. Like, and I think, you know, there's a satisfying version of each of those. And the ending on screen is definitely extremely satisfying. But no, it's really rare. And yeah, I adore it. And like, you know, go the gays, go George Cukor. I forgot that it was him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's such an interesting filmmaker because his impact on Hollywood and like that golden era of Hollywood filmmaking is so apparent. And you see it kind of trickle down a lot between him and Howard Hawks, that idea of like that
My other favorite man.
fast-paced,
Yeah.
fast-paced, like cross-talking dialogue. It's still kind of alive today in a lot of like comedy. Like I think my access point to these back in my video store days was the sitcom It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Right,
And like
right.
seeing and becoming really obsessed as a teenager with that, the idea of that overlapping dialogue, that jokes
Yep.
just keep rolling into each other, and it's about the fast-paced delivery of them. And so from there, I was like, well, where does that start? And as a teenager, I'm like, okay, let me go back. Let me go through the
it was
archives.
the same year as His Girl Friday, which is
Yeah.
like overlapping dialogue on steroids to the max, you know. And that was, I think that was Howard Hawks.
That was Hawks, yeah.
And it was Cary Grant. He like, what a year that guy had.
I know, right?
And yeah, absolutely. And I think it's I actually feel like Josh Cukor doesn't get the, you know, respect that he deserves. A lot of the time, because the direction isn't showy, so because you almost have to be a genre director to be seen as visible. Like there's no understanding of how handling relationships on screen and characters like with finesse doesn't get the recognition because it's not like an easy thing to spot.
Especially because it's also comedic, and I think comedic stuff and comedic performances is even of this era they get dismissed a lot. But he was such like a director that was great with actors and a real ally to actors and bring out great performances. And also, I think you're right with the genre thing because he is a bit of a journeyman filmmaker because he did this. His first one with Katharine Hepburn, I think, was the Little Women adaptation.
Which is the best one.
I love that one, but I can't co-sign if it's the best one. I think
You don't have to. I can guarantee it is. That's not a knock. Actually really love Greta Gerwig's one as well.
What about Mervyn LeRoy? You a big Mervyn LeRoy fan? His version of it?
That one is a piece of shit. We don't have to pretend.
I like the Psycho Little Girl, but that's it. But then also, he did A Star Is Born as well.
Yeah.
So it's
I
just
mean, he did a lot.
He did a lot.
He even did all the best parts of Gone with the Wind. He had amazing visual panache as well when, given the scope. I think it's really genuinely people don't seem to respect. And also, if you work on feminine, I think if you do films about violent men, you get instant respect because male violence is seen as automatically profound, whereas relationships and feelings are not. And my feeling is always the opposite, I mean, I know if we take out violent men from the Australian filmography, there'll be 4 films left.
Yeah.
So
it's an area of fascination
I can't
for me.
possibly question that.
Yeah, exactly. You ruin our canon. You can't do it.
Yeah, our canon bores me shitless. But thank God for the piano and Hanging Rock and Muriel's Wedding, And there's a few good ones.
There's a few that sneak through.
But yeah. But no, I actually think it comes down to that. I think anything that's associated with femininity is somehow seen as less profound. Whereas I'm just emotional intelligence is actually much more interesting than violence.
Yeah.
So and much more relevant to most people's lives.
Absolutely. And I think with this film as well, in that moment in history when we're thinking about that Hays Code, that weird era where things are trying to be provocative through whatever means they can be, this film is about a divorce, and it's about a divorce in a really interesting way where it's a divorced couple that eventually must get back together somehow. And it's kind of interesting to go back and revisit these films and see how society even interpreted something that's so normal and commonplace now. I've got maybe 4 friends that have parents that are still together. And it's back then it was we have to get these people back together because they made that promise to themselves years ago. But it does it in a way that's so fun, it's so exciting. And I'd say this to the listener as well. If you have not made the exploration back to older films like Golden Age films, I actually think this is a really great access point to
absolutely. It's very accessible.
Open those gates for you and walk through and just experience something, it's really fun. It's so watchable.
And just really, really good writing. So what I don't think people who haven't seen films before the 50s know what good dialogue actually is, genuinely. Watch this and All About Eve and then talk to me about writing. Before that, we're not talking. I'm sorry.
The other one from this era that I love, same team basically, I love Holiday.
Oh,
Love Holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the same year as Bringing Out Barry. So that had a good run.
That had a good run. Well, let's move on to your next weekly pick. An all-time favorite for me. One of my favorite filmmakers, perhaps actually my favorite filmmaker. We've got Pedro Almodóvar's Volver.
Drama.
How much am I allowed to go into spoiler territory with this one?
Let's go into it. I mean, it's been out for what are we, all 18 years?
18 years? Is it safe to come out now? Yeah.
It's of age. We can spoil it if we want. But maybe we'll give a little...
one of the pleasures. Actually, no, I'm not going to spoil it. Because if someone hasn't seen it, there's just an element that you've just taken for granted for the entire film. And then there's a casual conversation where something's revealed towards the end. And you're like, oh, of course. And it really plays on how, it's not a meta statement or anything, but it really plays about how we engage with movies and we just accept what's being told to us in a certain way, in a way that we never would in real life. And then, the characters within the story are obviously playing it out in real life. So it means one thing to them and then it means this other thing to us. And towards the end, these things come together. And this just casually beautiful and wise conversation that happens. And I just remember being so enthralled with that film that then it ends almost moments after that. And just I'm like, no, it can't be over. I'm not ready to say goodbye. I started tearing up just because no, how could it have finished? It was so it's the perfect ending. But it's just, it's so satisfying and so, and again, I think because it's not about male violence, it doesn't quite get the same recognition.
But there is a moment of violence, and a man does
cop
it. There's a man that does cop it in there.
Yeah, but because female feelings are seen as somehow gossipy and chatty, but I'm just no, this one is profound.
Yes.
And again, about a certain way of living. I think he's one of the only humanist filmmakers, deeply humanist filmmakers left, and just even the villain, for lack of a better term, in the piece has layers that are revealed, and the attitudes of the characters have multiple contradictory stances. And speaking of a web of relationships, it's immaculate, and every single performance mattering, and every single character mattering, and extremely dark premise, but it's a joyous, vibrant film.
Vibrant is the word, truly, for this, because it's like, it's that idea that he uses melodrama to communicate to you through like emotions and to really get to them. Like, can I ask you, is this your favorite Pedro film?
No, it's so hard to say which one that is.
Favorite is like a 7 movies that I shift around.
Today
it is.
Between this and Talk to Her, it's hard for me to decide, to be honest.
Wow, I would,
because they're very different.
Pretty
films.
close to my top 2 as well. Because Talk to Her is also a film that you could never ever make again. Like, it is for many reasons. But it's just, even like, I didn't know how you could show that film to a young person without giving him like heaps of context to it. But Volver, I think what is really special about it is that Pedro touch, and it's that idea that this movie begins in a place of some kind of magical realism, and then it quickly just goes, no, there isn't, and you go, oh, okay, and it kind of, the way that film plays with that, I don't think I've ever seen another film do it in that way.
Actually, this while being very conventionally accessible as storytelling, it's doing extremely unique things, which is so rare. He's I think the greatest filmmaker alive, for sure, and I love that he's still making films. Like Pain and Glory was beautiful.
One of my favorite movies in the last 5 years. Parallel Mothers he did just after that.
That was a great film. That's like his 10th best film, and it was still one of the best films of that year.
I put it as my number 1 of that year. It was
that's the thing. Like, even he's like, I mean, what would be like a lesser effort is his filmography is like one of the greatest ever in most people's.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. And there's something else you said when you were talking about Volver's, like the idea of perfect ending. And I think across the board, he's a filmmaker that truly understands it more than the audience where a film should end. Or more than the audience's feelings should know where a film to end. And I think that I think most filmmakers know better than the audience, but when you're watching it,
debatable. Depends which films you're watching.
When you're watching it, you find that satisfaction of going like, oh, I had no idea where this would go.
Yeah.
But he takes you there and he brings you in there. When I think about Pain and Glory, that's ending where you go, it recontextualizes what you've been watching.
Oh my God, I just remember, the closing images.
Those closing images.
And it's also when the emotional impact lands really hard. Somehow something that's been building and you don't even realize it all along, when it lands in the closing frames. The same way it did for Volver. And same with Pain and Glory. It was just suddenly, and especially with that film, because it's so clearly personal to him and autobiographical. And,
he said it's not autobiographical.
Yeah, right. There's aspects of this clear. He said some aspects
It's in his kitchen. The film's set in his kitchen for the most part. But Volver, if people haven't seen it, I don't even know how really to describe it, but it's a melodrama, Spanish melodrama, where about 3 generations of women, and I don't even know where to begin.
It's about trying to live your day-to-day life, on limited means, while trying to cover up a murder and reconnect with your dead parent.
Perfectly put.
There we go.
And then from there, where it takes
Who is fabulous.
Fabulous. A fabulous grandmother. It's I just really love this movie. I was so glad to see you pick it. It's just that Penelope Cruz performance as well. It's her big. Well, she was a star, but it was that big breakthrough at that time of people in America and around the world like seeing her.
Oh, she can act,
seeing her in her natural language as well, just like break through, and it's just I don't know. I think it's Penelope Cruz is one of my very favorite actors.
Oh, I would just I'd be an assistant on set. I will carry her water or whatever she needs me to carry. I'm happy to just be the intern and just watch. It's fine. I adore her, and I have and she was very important to me through that decade of I guess when you're in your mid-20s and going to the cinema religiously, that was well, I wouldn't say the peak of her career because the career is still going quite well.
We're still on the peak. It feels like we're on the ascent.
So, but she was very important to me in those key years, and remains important to me actually. So yeah.
Can I ask you, like, with the dynamic that we're talking about of Pedro's films, of like it being these, a lot of them are about families. Did you see a lot of like your own family in them? Because when I see your films as well, there is that similar dynamic of that feeling of when you get.
It wasn't conscious, but it was really funny because I'm almost like, oh, I wish my family was like that. And then actually, when You Won't Be Alone, my first feature premiered in Macedonia. I had a friend from Poland who was around. He was one of the financiers of Housekeeping, actually. And then all my aunts were there at the premiere, and afterwards he was like, "God, your family is like a Pedro Almodóvar movie." Even like the clothes they were wearing and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, "Really?" And I had to stop and think and go, "Oh my God, yeah." And a lot of, I think, and also Spanish rural is not that different from Macedonian rural.
Yeah, and same Greek
mentality.
rurals for me.
Yeah, like even just the way they're cleaning those graves in the opening scene of Volver.
Oh God, how are we not talking about that? That's the best moment of the movie.
But
and then it gets better from the
that
first
was
image.
every Sunday when I was going to the grave. Like that wasn't
Yeah.
something that I hadn't seen before. No, that was really not unusual.
The
like,
true resonance.
It's the same culture in that sense. For
I
sure.
remember my grandmother going to my grandfather's grave, my papu's grave, with like this water bottle and a little chuck swipe and just pouring water to like clean the stone. And that's how this movie begins. It's so real, so authentic. But then the way that he makes it funny is you see the whole row of all the women doing the exact same thing. But it's just the way that he makes it cinematic is so fun, and that's the vibrancy.
Yeah, and it's not like, you describe it and it sounds like, oh, great, they're cleaning graves. But it's actually, it's vibrant and it's fun. It's not a sad moment or a sad image. It's playful.
Yeah.
And I love that, that's exactly it. I think it's very aesthetically conservative to just go, oh, we're talking about death, so it has to be bleak. No, like I think if you have a healthy relationship to life, it's not like that. And I think actually, my brain is probably also shaped by having grown up on a lot of horror films. So, I'm very prepped to love them, when they come out because I've been shaped by them.
That's same here, man. And I think as well when you see like, and I think it's Housekeepers speaks to this as well of like that. European, Mediterranean, Eastern European cultures, while like you can be seen as patriarchal, but when you access it further or when you're in it, you truly do realize it's matriarchal culture.
It's complex. Yeah,
it's
contradictory.
Yeah, fully contradictory.
I had this conversation yesterday. Like there were like wonderfully a bunch of queer Balkan people, young people, at the Sydney premiere of Housekeeping for Beginners last night, and we were talking about this specifically, about how like it's really ironic that in these patriarchal cultures, especially across Southern Europe, like women also have this other strong role, and like, I mean, I could even speak like in terms of like Yugoslavia specifically, like it was really normal for the woman to be the highest earner in the family or in the household, like. Just Macedonia, which I would not consider progressive when it comes to gender dynamics, has 52% of our scientists are female. The world average is 13%. Like Australia is about 16. So like, I mean, Macedonia has the highest proportionally, but like, and this isn't even something you'd observe as unusual or like that even take pride in, And it's a weird contradiction because in so many ways it's an extremely patriarchal culture, and the gender roles are very limited. And it's complicated to talk about feminism or progress or any of these things, never mind about queerness. But it's never quite linear, in terms of just because this aspect is happening doesn't mean this other aspect isn't also happening. So, yeah.
Yeah, beautifully put.
Was it? I feel like I phrased that really badly.
We'll edit it so it phrased out perfectly. We'll do an
Delete most of
AI.
that,
We'll
I
do an
beg you.
AI run through on it.
Staff pick.
We have come to this point in the episode where
it's your time to shine.
I'm sweating, man, because, I would say of all the people that I know about, the people that are potentially walking through those doors of this store, I would say you would be in the top percentile ferociousness in cinephilia. You even dropped, you've seen 7,000 movies that you've kept track of.
Yeah.
My estimate is I'm probably in that 5,000 area.
You'll get there, kid.
I mean, I've got a lifetime too. I've got at least one more
You're much
year left
younger
on
than
this
me.
work.
It's different. Yeah.
Well, I'm trying.
You're doing well. You're doing well.
So
believe in
I
you.
did go hunting to find you a staff pick recommendation, and I was trying to think of like where I could even go, like what were the options. So I had to go to find something that's like quite rare, quite underseen.
All right.
And I'm actually sweating right now. Something's changed in my body. Everything's been hunky dory until now, and now there's like an electricity going through me in the wrong way.
Just like it's like a band-aid. It's fine.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put the stakes on the table right now. This is my sole duty as a video store clerk. I've returned to this world. I've taken the omerta, I've taken the honor, I've taken the code. And if this is not a good recommendation for you, I'm putting it right now. I will snap the disc in half and use it to commit harakiri upon myself.
I mean, harakiri, like the 1962 Japanese.
Yes, that is a wonderful film as well. And I have seen it, so...
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay, a moment of relief for me. A moment
now
of
let
relief.
me see, what else am I seeing?
Okay, well, allow me to describe the film to you first. And I would just, it's a Australian new wave film.
Okay.
Underseen, very underseen. And it's a road movie.
Okay.
So is this and it's
Priscilla. No, sorry.
yeah, it's Priscilla. Oh shit. It's
Underseen.
gay. It's
Yeah.
But it's and I'll describe to you this way. It's like a road movie that has those feelings of like European cinema, like that intellectual European cinema, like Antonioni would describe it as. It evokes those same feelings of visual and narrative poetry, that cinematic, slow, rhythmic style. And you kind of start building this complex portrait of a man in relation to his surroundings, like the environment around him. And I thought I was onto a winner because I even went onto Letterboxd and I saw only 80 people have seen it.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's probably...
But then when I saw some of the people that had to go, well, these are some of my comrades in Melbourne that would have seen it at the same screening that maybe if you have seen it, you would have. But it's a film from 1979 from director Esben Storm, a filmmaking hero of mine, called In Search of Anna.
Art house.
Well done. I've never even heard of this film.
Wow. wow.
And I'm
okay.
gonna watch it.
Wow. Here, you can have a, you
I
can
mean,
take it in your hands.
This is like solid work on your behalf.
Wow. Oh my God. Okay. I feel a
you can
new
breathe,
elation.
you
I
can
feel a
breathe.
new elation.
And of course, Bill Hunter's in it. Of
Bill
course.
Hunter's in it, of course. I
It
mean,
was
we didn't
mandatory
need to
in
say
that
it.
era. Yeah.
But I would describe this film, it's kind of like this beautiful trip.
It was in Cannes. I love that. Okay, so there was this beautiful film that was in Cannes in the Australian New Wave, and I've done approximately 78 university degrees in film studies, and this one never came up. Like
It was totally buried.
people
Totally
don't think
buried
outside
on
the
release.
box. Like, how come it doesn't come up in film school?
It's kind of lost at the moment. Like there has been, I'm really glad we're getting to talk about it because
Yeah.
I think it's ripe for resurgence and ripe for rediscovery now. It did screen at the 2022 Melbourne International Film Festival in their program about Melbourne on screen.
Oh right, I remember that section. Yep.
Yeah, and there was a few other great films in there, Love and Other Catastrophes amongst them. But this is a film that it's really rarely seen. I know one of the people involved with, like a former collaborator of Esben Storm, the filmmaker, who sadly passed away a few years ago. The collaborator, Hayden Keenan, another great filmmaker, he's been working on some kind of restorative print of it, and it screened at a film festival in Sydney last year at the Bondi Wood Film Festival. But it's kind of also entwined across like these temporal spaces where the main character, played by the wonderful Richard Moore, is newly released from prison and he's going on search for like a lost love of his to connect to her again. But it's kind of set across different temporal spaces that entwine instead of them being separated. You see him at different points, and it's that kind of Antonioni feeling where you have to be present, and it's more about like the emotional journey, the emotional arc of the character, and how that makes sense across the structure. And it's actually might be before your time in Australia, but Esben Storm was the creator and director and writer of the Australian TV series Round the Twist, which is like highly influential.
I know of it. Yeah. It was before my time.
It's maybe my favorite piece of anything ever. Like it's, especially amongst Australian comedians, it's like a central text to them all. And in this film, Richard Moore is also the dad in Round the Twist. They have the same first name. And he also says the words "round the twist" in this, like in succession. So it's like when I was watching, I go, "Okay, I'm in. I'm already in there." He also plays a Greek guy, so I love that. Yeah. And there's this way that the camera paints the film that is, it's really kind. It has that empathy, but in a cold way. So it kind of has like this emotional reverberation.
Or I think you could describe Antonioni that way.
Exactly.
Empathy, but in a cold way.
In a cold way. So it's like, it's something that feels so rare in Australia to see it that way. And it's those long stretches where you kind of see moments on the road and you're actually hearing the radio, the original Double J before it even became Triple J, playing like...
Is that real?
Yeah, that's true. It was Double J first, and they got an extra J, they put it on there.
Next thing is Triple J 5.1.
Yeah. But you're hearing like classics contemporary of that time from the Angels, AC/DC, Rose Tattoo, when it's like the currency of that time. Like that's the music that's shaping Australian culture. And what's really interesting about this was Esmond Storm had already won an AFI award for this really neo-realist type film about an alcoholic called 27A. That's like, it's verite, basically, this film. It's so real. And he noticed at this time the way the new wave was continuing to crash was it's all like Picnic at Hanging Rock, these period pieces, these like classical looking films. He wanted to make something really fresh and really contemporary, and that's what's brought him to In Search of Anna.
I'm almost surprised to hear like a verite Australian film. That's really not our strength, or like something that we've invested in very much as a culture or as an industry. So
yeah, it's cool. That and Kenny are the two verite Australian films. Fair. But that's it. That's your selection. You've got Return to Seoul. Amazing. You've got Voltaire. You've got The Philadelphia Story. And my God, my successful staff pick recommendation.
I mean, I was even getting nervous for you, to be honest. So, like, I'm really glad this has worked out.
I think I'm going to be bestowed a medal of some kind.
I think you should be, yeah.
Can I have the Queer Lion?
I mean, I'll find you something else pink and sparkly. The Queer Lion has to stay in my house. I get too much of my sense of identity from it now.
Okay, fair enough. But you won the Queer Lion once again for Housekeeping for Beginners. It is either in cinemas now or in cinemas soon. May 9th is its release. And I'm giving it my highest recommendation. I loved it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Hope everyone watches it.
And as soon as I earned that medal, you called me sir. Thank God. It's official. I've been knighted. Thanks so much, Goran, for joining me on the show.
The last video store.
Well, I freaking did it, dude. I actually can't believe I survived this episode with my skin intact and my pride in ecstasy. I recommended the great Goran Stolevski, a film he had not seen, nor had he heard of it. In Search of Anna, a classic by one of my heroes, Esmond Storm. Goran's film, Housekeeping for Beginners, is in Australian cinemas from May 9th. And you should go see it, man. It's freaking fantastic. It's vibrant. It's wicked. It's exciting. It is immersive. And it's probably unlike things that you've ever seen before in terms of where we are physically exploring the world. Housekeeping for Beginners, my highest recommendation. And let me tell you where you can find his picks. Return to Seoul is available for rent on VOD services, and it is on Binge. If you're a subscriber to that, go watch the movie there. Philadelphia Story, it's a classic. You can find it in many places. It's available for rent in all of them. Voltaire, same thing. And you can watch Voltaire on SBS On Demand currently at the time of recording. And finally, my staff pick recommendation, In Search of Anna. You'll have to go in search of that movie. It is available out there in certain ways. You can, in fact, buy a DVD of it from the Smart Street Films website, which is what I have done with a few of those very rare films from Hayden Keenan and Esmond Storm, because I admire them. And there's other ways to kind of see it online, but from what I've talked to with Hayden Keenan is that there may be greater ways to see that and experience that film alongside many of these other films in the near future. So keep your eyes on me because I'll be letting you know how to see them when the time comes. But in the meantime, you can also find every single one of these films and every single freaking film ever made and that will be made on the shelves here at Cinema's Last Great Hope, the last video store. Physical media, every single one of them. We got them all on DVD, tape, even a few audio mini disc versions, and there's a Betamax of every film. We've got every format available here. Please come support Batuta Video, support me, support the Last Video Store. If you want to support the Last Video Store, great way you can do it. You can give us